UFC Fight Night, Mackenzie Dern versus Marina Rodriguez. This is your preliminary card predictions by yours truly here at Boxing MMA Picks. He goes by the name of Zan. I go by the name of Harris. And as usual, we're giving you our fight-by-fight breakdown, fight-by-fight analysis, specifically from the betting perspective, letting you know which fights are worth the value, which fights you want to stay away from, which underdog has the best shot at winning, and some parlay action if you stick around to the end of the video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit the thumbs up, comment, most importantly, comment. Let us know what picks you're considering, how you feel about our picks, what your respective underdog is, and if you want additional commentary on a specific parlay you're considering, we're always more than happy to do that as well. Like I said, for this UFC Fight Night, Mackenzie Dern versus Marina Rodriguez is the main event. Before that, we do have to get to our prelims, and we have 6 fights on our prelims, so we are going to get right into fight number 1. Fight number 1 is Steve Garcia taking on Charlie Ontiveros. I will start with this breakdown for Ontiveros. It's been a year since his last fight. He lost October 2020. That was to Kevin Holland. Looked really bad in that fight, in my opinion. That was his UFC debut. Interesting to see him come all the way down to lightweight for this one, 155. Of course, that fight versus Kevin Holland was at 185, although he did come in undersized at 182. Southpaw on the feet, Taekwondo type of stand-up, pretty light, pretty bouncy on the feet as a result of that. Good striking speed as well. I'll definitely give him that as well. Looking at Steve Garcia, on the other hand, over a year and a half since his last fight, he lost to Luis Pena back in February 2020. Southpaw on the feet as well. Pretty solid hands coming from him. The jab is solid. He can sort of put combinations together as well with the boxing. It's a really hard fight to judge in a lot of ways. Both of these guys are respectively lower level fighters. Not really the greatest footage on either of these guys in terms of providing an in-depth analysis. But for me, Steve Garcia just looks a bit sharper, looks to have a little bit better tools, looks to have a little bit more reliable tools. So he's going to be my pick, Steve Garcia. I wouldn't trust this minus 310 at all, but Steve Garcia is my pick.
Yeah, this is a tricky fight because when you really break down Steve Garcia, he's a legit fighter. He's sorry about that. He's decent everywhere. But when you look at his fights, he fought Luis Pena, who was 6'3". He obviously lost that fight. He fought Alan Cruz, who was I think at least 6 foot. Yeah, he's 6 foot. He lost that fight. But aside from those two, a lot of the other fighters he's fought where he's been the bigger guy in the ring. He's been the bigger guy, so he's been able to have that size advantage in like 80% of his fights or even more. When you look at Charlie Quinteros, he hasn't really fought much, right? His quality of competition is really low. What we saw from Holland is he has good offense, but he's good being the hammer, but he's not good being the nail. So the UFC level, I'm not sure he's able to take the shots or able to, how do I say it, defend the shots at the UFC level. He hasn't shown me that. Not only the shots, the takedowns, he seems like he can give the shots, but he can't take the shots at this level. So because of that, I'm going with Steve Garcia. He's going to be fighting a bigger guy, 6'2". Again, when he's fought in taller fighters, he lost both of those fights. But I think the difference here is Steve Garcia has been in Bellator, LFA. The fighters he lost to, Luis Pena, Alan Cruz, are UFC fighters. Joe Warren, Bellator champion. Ricky Torcio, the Ultimate Fighter champion. And those are the people that he's lost to. When you look at Charlie Quinteros, he's lost to Kevin Holland, great fighter. But he's lost to Will Morris. He was 9-5 when he fought him. Will Morris was 1-0, Fury FC. He lost that fight. He was 8-4 when he fought Nicholas Veritnikov. Nicholas Veritnikov was 2-3. He lost that fight. So what I'm trying to get at is this guy loses fights. So I'm going to go with Steve Garcia here. Strength of schedule. I think he's more prepared at this level. I'm not sure that Quinteros can take the striking going back his way. He hasn't shown me that he's able to defend the UFC level takedowns, the UFC level striking. So sorry to go long on this, sorry to rant, but I'm going to go Steve Garcia. I feel he should get this done. He's a tougher guy. I feel like Steve's my pick.
Necessary analysis, no apology needed. Let's move on to fight number 2, though. We have Lupita Godinez taking on Sam Hughes. For this fight, Lupita Godinez, she lost to Jessica Penne via split decision back in April. Arguable split decision at that. That was her first professional loss. We see her record there at 5-1. Really good boxing skills, or decent boxing skills, I should say. Good movement, good in and out, good accuracy on her punches as well. Throws really good combinations, good wrestling, and good takedown defense. For Sam Hughes, she lost to Loma Lubunmi back in May. She's on a 2-fight losing streak at this point. More of a kickboxing style as opposed to just the boxing. Pretty good overall stand-up. Really likes to control the center. She'll use feints and fakes. Doesn't really follow it up with anything, though, so that's sort of a concern with her. And I'll keep the analysis and the prediction short for this one. You know, Sam Hughes to me is one of those fighters who are definitely game. No glaring weakness anywhere. She's a good overall fighter. But I do think Lupita Godinez might just be a little bit better everywhere in this fight, if not the places that matter. I think she's a little bit sharper on the feet. I think she can rely on some of those wrestling skills as well. And I think she has the advantages in this fight, and this fight is sort of hers to lose. So I'm going with Lupita Godinez, -200, not too mad at that. She's going to be my pick.
Yeah, I'll make mine quick, man. I'm going Lupita Godinez as well. They fought before, amateur, in the amateurs, and Lupita won a unanimous decision here. It was pretty clear that she was a better fighter. And when I look at the improvements of both fighters, I have to think that Lupita has improved more than Sam Hughes. Lupita's 5-1. That last fight, to me, in my opinion, I think she beat Jessica Penne. That was a split decision, but regardless, I just think she's the better fighter, more well-rounded, and she should be able to keep this on the feet. And where she has a decided advantage with the striking, she should win a unanimous decision here as well. So I'm going to go Sam Hughes. I'm going to go Lupita Godinez to repeat and get another unanimous decision.
Sounds good. Moving on to fight number 3, we have Charles Rosa taking on Damon Jackson. A bit of a harder fight to judge, in my opinion. Charles Rosa, he beat Justin James via split decision in June. BJJ black belt, serviceable stand-up, bit of a hybrid style between karate and boxing. He'll use that switch stance a lot, pretty light on his feet, fights from the outside as well. He'll use the calf kick, not necessarily with a ton of power, though, a bit more of a point fighting type of style with that calf kick. And I mean, his power and his pace kind of picks up as the fight goes on. So that's something that you can rely on him for. Unsurprisingly, pretty good defensively on the ground. He doesn't take too much damage, but he is not that good at getting back up. That is a concern that I noticed with him. With Damon Jackson, he lost to Ilia Topuria back in December 2020. Decent boxing, decent brawling, decent combinations, decent pop on his punches as well. Pretty fast starter. He comes out with a pretty high pace. Suspect takedown defense, although he does have some grappling ability on the ground. Some wrestling shown in his previous fights as well, so I will give him that offensive credit. And I mean, he does have heart, he has cardio, he has aggressiveness, has a solid right-hand hook as well. Like I said, really hard fight. You know, I surprisingly, you know, I like Rosa in this fight. I think Damon Jackson probably is the slightly better fighter, but recently he just hasn't really impressed me too much. So either he returns looking kind of the way I'm expecting him to look, or he falls flat again like he has sort of recently in his performances. I think Rosa will have the better game plan. I think Rosa has maybe the slightly better tools to win rounds as well, especially as the fight goes on. So a little bit of a controversial pick here, but I'm going with the underdog, Charles Rosa, at +150.
Yeah, I agree with you, man. This is one of the tougher fights to pick here because when you look at both fighters, they're pretty similar in the sense that these guys been beaten down and they've gotten wins, right? So when you look at Charlie Rosa, his win versus Manny Bermudez, Bermudez had him on his back, and obviously he was able to get the armbar from his back. And similar situation with Damon Jackson versus Mirsad Bektic, that he had him on his back, and then Damon Jackson was able to get the guillotine choke off his back in that fight. So in a sense, they're both similar. They've been beaten down. They've come from adversity and win fights that they shouldn't have won. This is a really hard fight because when I look at the striking, who's the better striker? I'm not sure. I might lean towards Damon Jackson. When it comes to the grappling, though, I think that Charlie Rose is going to initiate the grappling. I don't think he's going to do well in the stand-up, but if he gets on top, he can definitely get a lot of points. So this is a fight that it's really hard to predict, but I have to go with my boy Damon Jackson. I just think he has the better cardio. I think that is a factor that I can't dismiss, that if this gets to the second, the third round, Damon Jackson is going to be able to keep that pace and get the win. So I'm gonna bank on that. But again, this is a fight that you got to stay away from. This is as 50-50 as it gets. You can't trust either side as far as the fighters go. So I'm definitely agreeing with Harris, going with Rosa. I can't blame him. But I'm going to go with the guy that I think has the better cardio, has the better record, has fought in the better guys. So I'm going to go Damon Jackson.
Absolutely can't blame you for that either. That definitely is a close fight. And I'll echo the stay away from betting on this one message for this fight. Let's move on to fight number 4. We have Alexander Romanov taking on Jared Vanderaa. For this fight, we see Romanov coming in as a pretty big favorite at minus 470. He beat Juan Espino back in April, remains undefeated, 14-0. Has that power wrestling style, really good takedowns, good takedown technique, decent speed with his takedown entries as well, especially as a big guy who maxes out the heavyweight division. Pretty good top position, unsurprisingly. Doesn't really have the best striking or best striking defense, in my opinion. I think he's been a little bit exposed at this level, especially in his recent fight. And on the feet, I mean, he's a southpaw. He'll control the center of the octagon. He'll use some kicks as well. So he does have some striking diversity, but just not the most technical or cleanest striker. For Jared Vanderaa, he beat Justin Tafa via unanimous decision in May. Pretty big, pretty slow, pretty sturdy fighter. Pretty hittable. Definitely has a chin, though. Has that toughness factor to him. His striking looked improved in his last fight as well. Regular usage of a calf kick. He did look improved as a counter striker as well. I've seen him go for takedowns. I've seen him make it dirty against the cage if needed. And again, he's one of those guys that are pretty much looking to out tough you. But Romanov, I'll keep this short. Romanov is actually going to be my pick here. I don't think Vandera's striking is good enough to give him the clear edge there. Whereas Romanov has the clear advantage with the wrestling, and I expect that to be an effective game plan for him, at least for 2 rounds. So Alexander Romanov is my pick, minus 470. Not surprised by it. I wish it was a little bit lower. I might consider this for some parlay action.
Oh, 100%, man. Like you got to put this on every single one of your parlays. I really like Romanov to get this done. Vanderaa is not at this level. He's not at the UFC level. When you really look at the skills, look at the shape he's in. He's not at this level. So, quick pick. I'm gonna go Romanov to get this done. He should finish him. So Alexander Romanov, ground and pound.
And I agree with that finish pick there. So I'm curious to see what some money is looking like on that one. Let's move on to fight number 5. We have Jamie Pickett taking on Laureano Staropoli. How do you feel about this one?
Yeah, this is a tricky fight because when I look at both of these fighters here, they both have advantages in certain areas. Jamie Pickett, he's going to be the bigger guy. He's going to be athletic. He's going to move around the ring. So definitely one shot at this size can knock anybody out, right? Once you're at the 185, 170 and up, one shot could knock these guys out, especially at this level. So Jamie Pickett definitely is going to be the bigger guy. As far as IQ, though, I don't think he has that. I like Laureano Staropoli here in this spot here. I know he's lost his last 3 fights, but that was versus Salikov, Tim Means, and Dolidze. I think this is a spot that he should have been cut by now. Obviously, the UFC is keeping him around for some reason. So the UFC, in my opinion, wants him to win this fight. to keep him on the roster, because at this point, there's no reason for Staropoli to be on the roster based on precedents, based on the past, that once you get 2-3 losses, you're out of there, right? So in this fight, I see Staropoli having the better boxing, just being the tougher guy, winning a unanimous decision here, 29-28 type of fight. But I see this going the distance, and I think Staropoli just his constant game. I just think he's the better boxer, and I think that's going to come into play here. So Staropoli, I'm going to take him to win that.
I'll echo the Staropoli pick, and what I'll add from an analysis perspective, Jamie Pickett, cardio has been an issue with him. Cardio has been a big issue. He definitely loses pace as the fight goes on. We see that he does have some takedown numbers, so might have the wrestling advantage here. Might be the quicker striker as well, but I do think Staropoli is the better striker, and I do think Staropoli, of course, has the significantly better cardio. So definitely, to your point, 29-28 type of unanimous decision. My pick would be Laureano Staropoli as well. Let's move on to fight number 6. In that case, the final fight of our prelims, we have Chris Gutierrez taking on Felipe Colares, I should say. For Chris Gutierrez, he beat Andre Ewell via unanimous decision in February. Five fight unbeaten streak now for him. I know he had one draw in between those fights. A high-level striker, has a high striking IQ, picks his spots really well. Obviously, he has that dangerous calf kick approach to his game that has been very effective in a lot of his fights. Switches his stance a lot, pretty light on the feet, uses a lot of fakes, good ability to control the center of the octagon. And of course, you look at his takedown numbers, only half a takedown per fight. He's one of those fighters that will keep the fight standing. For Felipe Colares, he beat Luke Saunders in May. Kick-heavy attack, pretty fast, heavy body kicks, solid hands too. In terms of his ground game, decent top control, decent ground and pound positional changes. We see he can land 2 takedowns per fight, although the accuracy is not the highest. Still shows his ability on the ground there. Doesn't have the best takedown defense, but again, I don't see that being an issue in this fight. He does have some jiu-jitsu as well. But the biggest thing with Colares is that he survives. I mean, we've seen it in his Montel Jackson fight. We've seen it in his Luke Saunders fight. He was hurt bad in both of those fights, but he survived. One of those fights he's won, one of those fights he lost. But this, I think, again, should be primarily a kickboxing match with the style that both of these two guys present on the feet. And I think Gutierrez is simply better on the feet, a bit sharper, a bit more methodical with the calf kick, a bit better striking IQ. So Chris Gutierrez is going to be my pick. I'm actually not too mad at that minus 270 either.
Yeah, this is one of the more safer picks in my opinion here. Chris Gutierrez has shown in his career to beat him, you have to have a steady diet of wrestling. He's lost to Raoni Barcelos, rear choke back in 2018. He's lost to Jared Saunders and Timur Valiev, guys that have that grappling, whether they use it or not, the fact that they could threaten with that grappling. In this fight, though, Colares, I don't think he can threaten Gutierrez. I think Gutierrez is going to be able to stay on the outside. Takedown comes in. He has really good footwork to avoid that initial shot, get the underhooks, keep the standing, and then continue the leg kicks and just the striking display that he's gonna put on Colares. Now, Colares definitely, as you indicated, he definitely has heart. He's game, but I just don't see him. I don't see him winning this fight. His fight versus Luke Saunders, he got that win because Luke Saunders obviously gassed out in the second round. Montel Jackson, when he fought Montel Jackson, he got schooled, and it's gonna be similar to that. He's gonna be fighting a guy that's better, that's just a better fighter, and it's gonna be similar to that Montel Jackson fight without that power, right? So I really like Chris Gutierrez. He's too technical, and he should win a clear unanimous decision here. If anything, I can see a third round knockout maybe, but I'm gonna go decision. I'm just gonna go with the win actually. So I'm gonna go Chris Gutierrez.
Sounds good. Let's take it to Vegas in that case. Let's consider this prelim card, and let's start with maybe the underdog that we feel has the best shot at winning. Who are you looking at there?
Who are the underdogs on this card? I don't have my information.
Let's see here. We have Charlie Ontiveros. We have Sam Hughes. We have Charles Rosa, Jared Vanderaa, Jamie Pickett, and Felipe Colares.
Man, I don't think any of them have a chance.
Fair enough.
I'm not thinking any of them. I think Vegas got this week right on the prelims.
Sounds good. The only underdog I'll offer is Charles Rosa. Again, 50-50 fight at worst, and at a plus 150, I guess Vegas rules would say there's an underdog shot there. So Charles Rosa will be my underdog pick. In terms of favorite picks, something that we would consider on a parlay, I'll actually start this one, and what I'll mention is Lupita Godinez at minus 210, Alexander Romanov at minus 500, and Chris Gutierrez at minus 250. I think that could be a pretty solid start to your UFC card. $100 will return $248, and for our bigger bettors, $250 will return $620. From a favorite pick perspective, who are you looking at?
I like Chris Gutierrez, Alexander Romanov, and Godinez. Like, there's no way those three are losing, but it's UFC, right? Anything can happen. But I want to keep my streak from last week. My prelims and my main event hit the parlays, so I want to keep it going with those three. I feel like I'm going to keep that streak going.
Sounds good. So, of course, as we just mentioned, plus 148 for that. And I will repeat that $100 will return $248. For our bigger bettors, $250 will return $620. It definitely means something when we are unanimous on those parlay picks. So please choose wisely. And we are going to wrap it up at that. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you comment. Make sure you press the thumbs up. We want to hear from you. Who are your parlay picks? How do you feel about our underdogs? How do you feel about our entire picks in general? And if there's a specific parlay that you want some additional advice on, we're more than happy to do that as well. But we are going to officially sign off. This has been UFC Fight Night, Mackenzie Dern versus Marina Rodriguez, the prelim card predictions by yours truly here at Boxing MMA Picks. He goes by the name of Zan. I go by the name of Harris. And as usual, let's get this money.
Let's go.